Salut à tous, le Club Poker Radio est toujours à Marrakech pour le Sismix. Aujourd'hui, émission exceptionnelle puisque nous avons le plaisir de recevoir Gus Hansen et c'est tout de suite après ça.
Winamax presents Club Poker Radio. Une émission tout public, même pour les noobs, les nits et les sharks. Winamax présente Club Poker Radio.
Eh bien salut à toutes et à tous, c'est Comanche sur Club Poker Radio en direct et comme toujours en compagnie de mon ShiShi. Coucou ShiShi, comment vas-tu?
Hello, Comanche. I'm very good, thank you.
Wow, you're American?
Yeah, I'm fluent in English.
We are fucked. Okay. Aujourd'hui, c'est dans l'histoire de Club Poker Radio, c'est quelque chose de très important puisque nous recevons Stéphane Matheu.
Bonjour à tous.
Salut
Wow, Stéphane Matheu.
Ouais. Je m'étais applaudi, hein, ça va bien.
And next to you, we are very pleased to welcome a true poker legend today. He's made history in the poker world, Mr. Gus Hansen.
Bonjour à tous.
Oh, you're French?
Oh,
Perfect, it's perfect for us.
très difficile.
Très difficile. Gus, thank you so much to be with us today. I know you have a big media day, so...
Yeah, well, everybody has been nice so far, and the rumor is it that you're two very nice guys, so I'm looking forward to this.
It's just a rumor.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Steph. Thank you.
We'll have to verify that.
C'est pas ce que it's not what he said when we were walking, but okay. Gus, you were born in Copenhagen 50 years ago?
50 years ago? Yeah, just about there. Just about there.
Like 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the big 5-0, but yeah.
But no, you're not 50. You're really 50?
I'm 50.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So, what was your childhood? What was it like growing up in Copenhagen?
Well, I'm very proud of my parents. I think me and my sister had a very nice upbringing, and we were guided but allowed to make choices for ourselves. My choice was competition, sport, cards, board games, whatever came my way. We have a little board game in Denmark where you have a little ball that has to go from 0 to 60, and you have to turn like these little knobs. And in my kindergarten, they had to buy an extra set because I wouldn't let anyone else play. Because my record was like you go 60 and then you go back, so that's 120, 180, 240, and my record was like 5,300 or something like that before the ball went into a hole. So that takes a couple of hours.
Wow.
So the other kids couldn't play. So I've always liked to do those kind of things.
You made
like,
private games for this.
We could if you're interested.
You played a lot of games with your sister?
My sister was not. I played a lot of games with my dad.
Yeah. What kind of game?
He was a bridge player. So we played some bridge and all kinds of kids card games, whatever, a simple form of gin rummy, etc. Stuff like that. We always had a chessboard, so kind of learned the initial rules about the rooks and the queen and the king and the pawns, etc. My mother brought home a backgammon set, so that's when I started playing with my sister.
Okay.
She found interest in the backgammon, so we started playing there. And then, of course, sports, which always was a big passion of mine and still is. Back then, it was soccer, it was ping pong, tennis de table, tennis, etc. And I'm still now it's paddle, but love the sports, love the competition, love to beat the guy sitting next to you, etc.
Did you?
Well, we might have a paddle match or two here in Marrakech, so we'll see what happens.
What was your favorite game back in time?
Favorite game? Are we talking like board games or sports or just everything?
Both sports and
back then, it was I was pretty good as a junior in table tennis and tennis, and it took too much time, so my dad told me I had to choose. So it was tennis. And in the board games or games in general, it seems like I was fascinated by the cards.
Yeah, already.
Yeah.
When you started playing tennis, what was your favorite tennis player at this time?
Well, back then, you have to remember, I'm from 74.
Roland Garros.
Oh la la. The first, I mean, obviously, I remember names like Björn Borg or John McEnroe, but I don't think I was quite old enough to get the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the first match I kind of remember that I was watching was Yannick Noah in the French Open final. Was it against Mats Wilander?
Correct.
1983?
83, yeah.
So that's the first one I remember. And it's kind of funny nowadays being used to the Djokovic, the Nadals, the Federers, etc. If you go back and watch Yannick Noah and Mats Wilander, it's pretty slow.
Yeah.
Compared to 2024. But obviously, you can't argue with time, the rackets, the practice, etc., etc. They were the greats back then, and that's the first match I remember. And then I remember being fascinated mostly by the clay tennis, the grind, you really have to beat the other guy, just not by a big serve, but really have to outlast the other guy. And so I was always fascinated by the French Open.
So you're a big Nadal fan?
I'm a big fan of sports in general. So I'm a big fan of Nadal. I'm a big fan of Federer. I'm a big fan of Djokovic. I think they've all brought something to the game. And not only them, you have, I mean, like we actually talked about it yesterday, talking about French guys where first saw Yannick Noah, and then you have Leconte, you have Guy Fauché, etc., etc. So Tsonga, there's been plenty of great tennis players without the big three. So I just enjoy watch people that are extremely good at what they're doing. It's fun to watch, and that comes up a lot in competition, whether it's chess, backgammon, poker, bridge, or in sports, whether it's tennis, ping pong. Zinedine Zidane was always a favorite of mine, etc., etc.
I like you pointing me when you say Zidane. We have some like a brother to me. Did you studies in Copenhagen?
Study. I have what we call high school equivalency, and then I had stumbled into backgammon and was fascinated by it and was pretty decent at it. And I took a year off, which is very normal in Denmark, and started playing backgammon. Played some events internationally. And
what age? Well,
18.
How old are you?
18.
18.
So
Wow.
I finished high school 18 and took a year off, and I'm what we call on my 33rd sabbatical.
It was easy for you to find some good backgammon games?
Well, like I was saying, I played some events in Stockholm, in Amsterdam, in Paris, etc. It was a lot of money back for me then. I mean, usually a tournament like that, the entry is like somewhere between 500 and 1,000 euros, which is a lot for a young kid of mine. But I'd kind of decided I want to test that out. So you have to take some chances, and I'm still around. So I guess it was a good idea.
You decided to become a pro backgammon player. So
yeah.
How was the decision? Maybe what your parent thought about it?
Well, my dad thought that university seemed like the smart way to go. Mm-hmm. But also, like I mentioned, the first international tournament I played in Stockholm, I came in second. I won like 15,000 euros. The second tournament I played was in Amsterdam, and I won, which was like about 30,000 euro. And I came home, still staying at my dad's house, and I remember the expression on his face, and it was kind of like, he couldn't remember in his 30 years of working for a company that he came home one night with 30,000 euros. So I think he kind of saw that it had possibilities, and also the fact, I think my mom and dad has been very supportive in that way. If it's something that makes you smile, if it's something that makes you happy, then pursue it. If it's something that makes you don't want to get up in the morning, change direction.
Like give it a try.
Yeah.
Give it a try. And how did you study? Is backgammon something you can study?
Yes, for sure. I think you kind of have the same parameters as in poker. Nowadays, the best backgammon player in the world is the computer.
Yeah, okay.
And we had the first iteration of computers in, I think, like 96.
96? Okay, so it's before the Go, before the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Back then, I could beat the computer. Then there came the second iteration was like 2003 or something. Now it was hard to beat, and then came like 2006, and now you were just drawing dead. Now you can't beat it anymore. But Denmark is a big backgammon country, so I had people to play with, better players to learn from, etc., etc.
There is some similarity between backgammon and poker. In poker, we study under solver, but we play against player, so we do a lot of exploit in the game.
Yeah.
There is the same in the backgammon, or is...
Backgammon is, I always like to say that poker, you have obviously the basic, the mathematical foundation of what you're doing. You can't go completely crazy unless you know how to completely exploit your opponent, but you can't go way off base. And then you psychologically profile yourself, profile your opponent, etc., etc. In backgammon, it's much more mathematical. There's the right move, and it's just better to make the right move. You can deviate a little bit if you have a read on your opponent that he's a little too timid or something like that, but not like in poker.
It's more like chess.
Yes, but with the luck element of the dice.
How did you started playing high stakes backgammon?
Well, I mean, I studied backgammon. I mean, I'm an old school kind of guy because I started backgammon and poker back when computers were not a factor. So, I mean, like, basically, I have spent hours and hours in front of the backgammon board where I just have a position. I'm not sure what's going on. I roll the dice, make a move, roll the dice again, and play this position. And then I play it 200 times. After 200, I kind of get an idea what's going on. And I mean, basically, you can do the same in poker with a deck of cards. Nowadays, you have the computer to do the work for you. But one thing in mind that I think is very strong about the old school way is when I play a position in backgammon and play it 200 times, you get inside it. You get a feel for it. Now you can press the computer and get a more correct answer than the one I get after 200. But the 5-7 hours I've spent on that position, I won't forget it. Where if it's just press a button on a computer, you'll forget it.
Exactly.
In next day, you won't remember what happened. But I remember the 7 hours that I spent doing it. The drill. So it's the same. I mean, like, fortunately, in sports, we don't have the computer. But I mean, there's no way around it. If you want a big serve in tennis, you practice your serve every day. If you want a solid backhand, you practice your backhand every day. If you want to get good at backgammon, you have a very nice tool, which is called the computer. And used correctly, it's obviously much better than spending 7 hours on something you can spend less time on. But the 7 hours is not completely wasted. It kind of gives you an idea. It gets inside your mind in a different way than the quick fix that the computer brings you.
And how did you start playing the high stakes backgammon games?
Basically, I think like everything else, like in poker, I started playing basically €1 a point. Then it became €2, then €4, then €10.
I don't have any idea. If you play €1 the point, what is the average game?
Normal, if you play like a normal session, you play like 5 hours or something like that. you win or lose within 100 points.
Okay, like $100, $200, something like that in the beginning.
And then you can double and triple and whatever, depending on the stakes. And after a short while, I played like $10, $20 or 10, 20 euros, etc. And you kind of get used to it. And like I said, I think I was always good at learning from better players. I've always, people learn in different ways. I love to learn also in sports and paddle and tennis by observing. Like, for example, Stéphane is a much better tennis player than I have ever been. And watching how he stroked, how he prepared his racket preparation, etc. That gives me, that's how I do it, etc. Watching the best players in paddle, etc. So watching, and the same in backgammon. The visual is a big learning tool for me. People are different, but for me, watching good players play, and I'm saying, okay, that makes sense. I'm gonna have to study that a little bit more, etc., etc. So that's kind of how the natural way, you could say.
So at this time, you play the biggest backgammon games in the world, or most?
Not in the beginning, of course, but if we go by, probably 96, 97, 98, something like that. I was ready to go against anybody who wanted to play.
So what made you do the transition to go to the poker world?
Because one of the things, obviously there's way more possibilities in poker. It's a much bigger community, but also backgammon is a little bit personal in that sense. If I play with Steph in backgammon, because a lot of times you have a heads-up environment in backgammon. You have possibilities of playing like 3, 4, 5 players, but you don't pay immediately in backgammon. You keep a score. So if you play like 7 days in a row and the score is always Gus Hansen plus 57, plus 73, plus 42, and the guy never loses, then suddenly you might not be invited back. Whereas in poker, it's a pot. Who wins a pot? Yeah. I mean, obviously you know how you did after a session, but are you really sure that Benjamin won 100,000 or Peter lost or Thierry? What you don't know for sure. You have an idea how things are going. You have an idea of who you think are the good players, but it's not personal in the same way. So I had sometimes trouble getting a game in backgammon, and that has never been the case in poker. I mean, in poker, I'm the crazy dog. So everybody wants to play with Gus Hansen, and that's how it's always going to be.
And how did you start learning the game? Because it was like 1998, something like that, no?
I learned the rules of poker in '92.
Okay.
I was with some friends in Santa Cruz. My first trip to the US, they had a local card room, and I started playing like in a game where again you could win $100, $200, something like that.
Limit game at this time?
5 card
no limits.
It was limit games
Limit
back then.
games,
It was I think they called it spread limit, $2 to $6. Okay. So you could bet $2, you could bet $6, okay. And basically I thought I was the rock star of the world when I won $100, and I was really sad when I lost $100. So I mean, learned the rules. As with anything new you try, you're terrible in the beginning, but it was interesting. And like I said, I like games. I like to think, how does it work, etc. And then take steps from there. And then I became good friends with Huxeed, former world champion. Stayed with him in Vegas, and therefore played some of the cash games. I had some money from my endeavors in backgammon, lost a little bit in poker in the beginning, and then starting to get better and better.
So losing is a part of the process. It's sometimes tough because when you're competitive, you're not used to lose, but losing is part of the process to become better.
Yeah. I think in like with everything, if you just have success, you might just stick to that level because everything is going fine. But when you get the beat downs, when you make the mistakes, when you take the losses, you have to hey, I don't want to lose to that guy anymore, etc. I don't think I've ever told it. It's an old story from my kindergarten days. We played ping pong. I played with a guy named Jacob. We played every day. He was 1 year older than me. We played every day. I lost. I mean, I don't even know. Probably a year in a row. And then finally I beat him, and I was excited, and I was like, yes. And he looked at me, why do you act like that? And we never played again. But I kept going. I mean, I wanted to beat that guy so badly. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know if it took me a year or 2 years. I just know I won finally, and we never played again.
So everything is because of Jacob.
Hello, Jacob.
And can you recall at the beginning of your poker career some key moment, like some big shot, some moment that was very important in your career?
Well, obviously, I think my first win at World Poker Tour at the Bellagio, it was actually a name table. Would even be then. I was at the table. John Juanda was at the table. John Hennigan was at the table. Freddie Deep was at the table. So it was like a table with well-known characters also back then. And I won the tournament. And I remember watching it afterwards because it was one of the first TV things. And literally, I can say for sure that it would have been very unfair if anybody else had won that final table. I just played better than they did. So, I mean, that obviously gave me a confidence. Obviously, it's nice to bag a big first prize, but also the fact that I felt like I probably was the best player in the tournament. Obviously, you have to get lucky to win a tournament.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter who you are, you have to get lucky to win a tournament, but it definitely helps your chances if you're the one making the best decisions throughout the tournament. And I felt confident I did that, and kept on rolling from that, making new moves, adjusting slightly to what the perception of me was, etc., etc. And it definitely changed after I wrote my book.
Yeah.
It was obvious to me that everybody had just decided I was the sickest, craziest poker player they'd ever seen. And no matter if I hadn't played a hand for 2 hours, I had to have a deuce and a six in my hand. It was just, that's the hand I'm going to play after 2 hours. So that really was the impression that people had at the time, and probably still do.
So you can't bluff anymore.
You can bluff. You just have to think around a different way to do it. But definitely for me, playing solid starting hands, which is something I still have to learn, but nonetheless, that seems to be the right approach for me.
Every hand can make a straight flush, you know.
Every hand can make a straight flush.
When you won your first tournament, you were young. You were living in Las Vegas. How did you live with like a lot of money? What was your lifestyle at this time?
I think it's fair to say that I've always loved this environment, the gambling community, the competition. So that's what I was, a poker player, a backgammon player, a gambler, a recreational sports addict, etc. And that's what I enjoyed. So after that tournament, and with a tax system in Denmark that really does not fit a professional poker player that travels around the world, I decided I had some good friends in tennis from Denmark that played on tour, professional tennis players. And I remember I was at the gym with some of them, and they looked at me and said, you basically do the same thing as we do. You travel around the world, you play tournaments, etc. why don't you live in Monaco? And then I went with my sister. She's very close to me, and we went to Monaco, looked at some apartments, and then 2003 I moved to Monaco because it seemed like the right thing to do with my profession in mind. Because the thing is, we all know that if you play poker, you have some good streaks, you have some bad streaks, etc. If you're a good player, the good streaks are going to be longer and better than the bad streaks. But if you're going to get taxed on all the good streaks and never get any refunds on the bad streaks, it's really a very bad piece of calculation. It's bad math. So I had to do something to adjust for that, and fortunately my friends in tennis helped me make the right decision on that one.
Among your many achievements in your career, which do you consider your greatest success and why?
Like I mentioned, the first one, I looked back and thought I was ready to take it to the next level in some way, shape, or form. Of singular events, I think the one that stands out for me is Aussie Millions, because I had just begun recording tournaments. I remember this was my 8th tournament that I tried to take it to the distance, because I felt like I have to get to the heads up part in order to make the book appealing. And obviously winning the Aussie Millions made it even better, and I had recorded every hand, and it became a book, so it was kind of a 2-for-1 kind of thing. I think it might have been the biggest field of tournaments that I've ever won. It was definitely a big first prize, and the other side of it was I was able to write a book. So that I think is a big accomplishment for me.
We were talking about the book. So you were with like the recorder.
Yeah.
How did you do like after every hand? You were like you stand up and you talk to the recorder.
Basically, I also realized, and who knows, I might do it again. I actually realized that it was a good tool for me. Basically, I play a hand. It's not hard to remember one hand. If I look at the next hand, and chances are I'm not going to play it. If I am going to play it, I'm going to play it, and then I have to remember 2 hands. But if I don't play it, I fold it, I step aside from the table, I collect my thoughts. I say, okay, crazy guy under the gun, C3, raised. I think I can get away with some aggressive play here, take a flop in position, blah, 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 blah. And then basically, so it actually helped me get away from the table. I remember especially, I think I mentioned it in the book as well, I lose a hand and I'm on complete tilt. I mean, I think I really fucked up the hand and so on. And now I have to step away and kind of be objective about what I'm saying on the tape recorder, because I'm not going to write a book if I just say putain de merde, etc., etc. So in that sense, it kind of helped me
focus,
get my thoughts back on the right track, focus, like you say, etc.
You were you already were a superstar at this time. Well, one of the superstars of poker. You were. There was like a ton of superstars like Phil Ivey, Phil Hellmuth at this time. Where you were friends with this guy? You met each other a lot of time? Or?
I will. It's a funny dynamics, but yes, I am friends with Phil Ivey.
Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy?
They're actually most of them are all good guys.
Except.
Oh,
no. One gin tonic, please.
We have a funky character in Phil Hellmuth, and he puts on a show the poker brat, the this and that. But I've also stayed at his house. We went to a concert in California, etc., etc. And he's the nicest guy. I mean, that was actually the first time we were kind of together in a non-poker setting, and it was total different feeling. And he's a nice guy, but he puts on a show. He's a character. He's an actor. He comes in as the Emperor of Rome. He has said more times that he has so and so many bracelets. Everybody who wants to listen, he will tell that story over and over. So, and he's done very well with that. So all the credit to him. He's a different persona. I'm not a big fan of his poker persona. But outside, he's a different character. So you have to be aware of who people are. So in general, they're all good guys except for... Oh, I'm not going to say anymore.
Almost. Next time.
And what about Phil Ivey?
Phil Ivey is very reserved. He's his own guy. I think he came from a different background than me, but it seems to me we've always had some kind of vibe. We don't hang out on a day-to-day basis, but I would definitely always call him my friend. I work together closely with my sister and my brother-in-law. He knows them as well, always. So in that sense, he's reserved. He has a few friends in the poker community. He stays at a distance, but he really is a good guy, and I consider him my friend. Yeah.
You were together in the same team when you were doing the cooperation against Andy Bill?
Yes.
What, the corporation? No, what?
Yeah. I think you can call it the corporation. I can't even remember what we called it, but yeah, this was amazing. And actually, since you brought it up, I'm just gonna. I talk a lot, so you just stop me.
No,
let's go.
But
we don't like the guys that talk a lot.
It's radio show, so you can talk.
The thing is, basically, the corporation, which I actually think we were calling it, was 20 players.
20?
Yes. So 20, and basically the bankroll was 10 million. So everybody put up 500,000. And Andy Beal, obviously having the sky's the limit, put up his own 10 million. And within a group of 20 poker players, there's a lot of opinions of who's who and who's the best at this and who's the best at that. I remember very clearly who I thought was the best to play heads up limit hold'em against Andy Beal, and who I thought should absolutely not play. Unfortunately, there was a large group of that 20 who had a different opinion. So basically, let me just put it this way. Of the 20 players, if I had to rank them in heads up limit hold'em, our front runners to play Andy Beal was number 16, 18, and 19 on that list. How that ever happened is beyond me. But fortunately, at the end, we got Phil Ivey in to save the day, and he beat him soundly. But I think it's just funny. The result is the result, and obviously Phil Ivey was the best guy we had in that setting. But it's just funny to see how opinionated this world is, because we don't have an end result. We have who's the best players in tennis. Well, you can always argue, but you have the Djokovic, you have the Nadal, you have the Federer. They're top three. There's nobody who's going to argue that unless they're on complete drugs. But in poker, you can have people say Phil Ivey. You can have people say Adrian Mateos. You can have people say Daniel Negreanu. You can even have some fucked up people say Gus Hansen. I mean, you can have all kinds of answers, and nobody can really dispute that opinion because it is an opinion. In sports, you usually have facts that are clear as day. Again, going back to Phil Hellmuth, He has 16 bracelets, I think. But in how many tournaments and how large were the fields in which he obtained 16 bracelets? How would Phil Ivey have done had he played this exact same tournaments? You can guess this or that. I have my idea, etc., etc. But you can't dispute with people saying Phil Hellmuth. You can't dispute with people saying Phil Ivey. You can't dispute with people saying Adrian Matteo. You can't. I mean, it's hard to measure. So when you have 20 opinionated people, there's a good chance they will come up with the wrong answer. And boy, did we came up with the wrong answer. Oh, my God. I mean, it's suffocating sitting with 500,000, which was a lot of money for me back then. And I was actually... Also, the reason why I thought my opinion was valid is because I watched every hand.
You were sitting next to the...
I sat next to the guy watching. And it was painful watching number 17,
my God.
18, and
No,
19
fun.
play. But obviously, if you don't know, you have to study. How do you study? By sitting next to the guy and watching the play. So it became pretty clear to me that we had the wrong idea.
It was stressful?
One thing is when you sit at the table and you fuck up, at least you fuck up for yourself. I think in general, if we go results over time, I have done extremely well when people have pieces of me. Because I'm more careful with other people's money than my own money. Oh boy, can I fuck up my own money? Oh my God! But I don't want to fuck up Steph's money. I don't want to fuck up anybody's money. So I'm a little more careful. In that spot where I'm sitting next, I have 5% of the corporation's money, and I'm sitting there, but there's nothing I can do. I mean, I'm a silent spectator. I can't watch. It's not 2 against 1, so that's not part of the game. So I can just sit quietly and watch, and then I can relay the information to the other people in the corporation and say, hey, this is really, really a bad idea, what we're doing right here. And then they can listen or they can't. But obviously frustrating when your hands are tied and you feel like the water is just running out.
How long the corporation, the game?
It happened a couple of times, I think. Okay. And all the credit to Andy Beal. He studied the game. He became very methodical. He had this sense where he took his card, he looked at the card, put them down, put his chip marker on it. 1, 2, 3. Not anything extensive, not 20 seconds, not 30 seconds that you can see some people in tournaments on TV and you're just like, okay, shoot me now. But he was methodical. 3 seconds, he had the same way, whether he had a good hand, a bad hand. And so that was impressive that he kind of methodology, that he kind of picked up on that and was very solid in that sense. But obviously... he could beat number 16, 18, and 19 in that group, I can tell you that. But he couldn't beat number 1 in that group.
And
so.
You can tell us now what is your read on the bill. Do you have a read?
Live read? Well, I never played against him because that was never gonna.
Because you was number 4, but
no. I was. We had a group of 20, and I was probably considered number 47 in that group. So in that sense, I knew I wasn't gonna play. So yeah, I just watch, observe, learn.
I'm going to give you 2 or 3 examples of wild Vegas stories. Can you tell me if they are true or not? Okay.
We can try.
The story of Phil Ivey receiving a bottle of champagne and then sending 2 back and continuing to do so until several dozen of bottles is on the table.
That is interesting. I've never heard the story before.
Really?
So it could very well be true with a different persona, but not with me.
It's true. It's true.
I'm a vodka kind of guy. So
okay.
We did it with vodka bottles. No.
So you don't know.
Don't know.
Call Phil Ivey right now. No, okay. Dan Bilzerian build his bankroll playing poker.
That's a good question. I think the jury is still out on that.
You play against him?
No, I've never. Yeah, I played against him in the first 1 million for one drop, and I played a hand horribly against him where he doubled up with his ace king against my ace queen. I'm still punching myself in the head on that one, but I've never played a cash game with him. The thing about obviously he had some bankroll from the get-go, but again in poker, if you're the 10th best player and you always play against number 1, 2, 3, then you're going to lose. If you're Tsonga and you're always up against Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, you're going to end up as number 4. I'm sorry, Tsonga. You're a fantastic tennis player, but against these 3, you're number 4. So if you're number 10 and always play against the top 3, it's not going to be good. If you're good, table selection, if you're a good gambler, know when to walk away, know when to run, etc., then you can be very, very successful. And obviously, with his persona, he has had access to some
crazy games and
crazy games, extremely high stakes. So I couldn't say for sure. I could see both being correct.
Last one. You played with a famous French guy who was wanted by Interpol in the Bobby's room.
Well, definitely. There's been some documentaries about some
everybody know the name in France.
VAT scams and etc. And I have played against a couple of those guys in Bobby's room. I've played them against them in Monaco, etc. And
on TV show, the $48 million cash game back in time. There was one of them.
Yeah, because that could be. I can't remember it all. I know 2 of the guys very well, but I know who they are. They know me. We've played together a bunch of times, but I haven't seen them the last couple of years. So
only on Netflix. Only on Netflix.
Yes. They might be somewhere else.
Have you seen the documentary on Netflix?
I have not seen it, but I've heard about it, and I've been told it's worth a watch.
Yeah. We were talking about the Bobby's room. We always heard that in Bobby's room you have some crazy prop bets. What was the if you have some stories of crazy prop bets you saw?
Well, obviously we had it wasn't in Bobby's room, but kind of the same setting. We had a TV cash game where we were talking. It was me, it was Tom Dwan, it was Phil Ivey, it was Antonia Sfandieri, it was Eli Elesri. That's at least 5 of them I can remember. And basically, the bet came up about not having sex for a year and not being able to masturbate for a year.
You lost.
So you can't do that for a year. And
it's a shitty prop bet.
I was really trying to make that bet because it would be the easiest bet in the world to win. Like
really?
The easiest bet in the world. For me, people are different, but bets where there's something you should not do are so easy to win. Bets like where you have to run 10 miles every day. It's fucking hard. You might get injured. You might be on a long flight. Things like that, and just the grueling, the pain in the body. I had a bet one time where I had to do 10,000 push-ups and 10,000 sit-ups in a month. It's only like 330 a day. And at the end, because I was only doing push-ups, and my back started to hurt because I was never pulling the other way. So in the end, I gave up. So bets where you have to do something specifically is tough, I think. Stop smoking. I've never smoked, but would be easy.
Yeah, but
I mean,
stop masturbation, you can be in jail too.
It depends on the
but anyway, I was trying to get it on, and it was more or less on for $1 million. But I kind of wanted to push the limits a little bit, and then people kind of sensed that I was maybe a little bit
Too
too
confident.
into it, so it didn't get. Instead, at the same, it came up between Phil Ivey and Tom Dwan that Phil Ivey had to be vegan for a year.
And he buy the bet after, right?
Huh?
And he buy...
After like 3
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
3 weeks. Fuck this shit. I want a steak, and I'm just gonna.
I'm really interested in the way they can check if you don't have sex for a year.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the way a lot of times in the gambling community it goes by the honor system. That if you make a bet, like for example, I have a very good friend of mine, lives in Vegas. He's from Sweden. He was a young and upcoming player. His nickname online was Eric123.
Oh, obviously. It's
still
a legend.
Still a very good friend of mine.
And host of one of the biggest mixed game in Vegas right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I come to Vegas, I usually stay with him and his family. I know his daughters, etc., etc. And basically, in the past 20 years, I would say almost, actually right now, we're even. I don't know him, he doesn't know me, but we've always had figures amongst each other. Like, he owes me 200,000, I owe him 500,000. Back then he was living in Sweden, so when he came to Vegas, he usually borrowed some money from me, and then maybe he paid me in Europe, whatever. There was always figures, and obviously we've never had a written bank statement saying you owe me this under the blah blah rules of this and that, and if not, I come and take your house. It's like if he's in a bad run, he pays me whenever he can. If I'm on a bad run, I pay him whenever. The same with Phil Ivey. I've a long time had outstanding figures with Phil Ivey one way or another. So it's by the honor system. We don't have a written contract. We don't have this and that, and we don't have a mortgage on your house or something like that. So that's how it goes. If you obviously, when you make bets like that, it's person that you trust that you would make that bet that would pay up. Like, I mean, Phil Ivey obviously decided he could have had a stake and nobody would know, but he decided he paid up after 3 weeks. So.
Can you tell a little bit about the full tilt times when it was like one of the biggest part of the poker history?
Well, obviously we had back then we had the Poker Stars, the party poker. Then the full tilt came along, and I became, at the beginning, a silent investor. Then I became a sponsored player and was part of the ownership group, which was a large group of, I think, in total, like 33 people. And obviously, with 2006, the UIGEA, which was a border bill that everybody in the Senate and House of Representatives wanted to pass. And then they tagged the unlawful internet gaming bill to that. So it was just passed. And then, obviously, Party Poker left the US, and we had Full Tilt and Poker Stars staying around. And Full Tilt stayed around a little bit too long, where it became an issue. And also, maybe our CEO was not the right CEO. There was definitely some blurry waters there. I think he was a tremendous CEO when we were a small upcoming company. Maybe you can have the best CEO from a $20 million company to a $50 million company. But once you have a $200 million company, he's the absolute wrong guy, because you need more structure. You need to take less risk. You need to this and that. So a lot of mistakes was made, and I don't know if that was the direction you were headed, but again, I know especially Howard Lederer had received the world of criticism in the poker community. Chris Jesus Ferguson has received some criticism, not as much as him, but also. And I think in some way, shape, or form, this shouldn't sound wrong, they're guilty of neglect. They should have, as board members, they should have been more aware of what was going on. As part of the ownership group, I should have been more aware of, but I didn't think about it. Everything was going good, so I didn't think. Obviously not as guilty as a board member, but people should have been more aware. I don't think there's any chance whatsoever that Chris Gigas did any foul play, that Howard Lederer did any foul play, but mistakes were made. But honest mistakes are also a possibility. So in that sense, we didn't have the right CEO. People should have been paying more attention. As it turned out, it became part of PokerStars and this and that. And as far as I know, everybody got their money back. So in that sense, I think the outcome was very reasonable for everybody. But obviously, people had to wait, and it's easy when things are going bad to point fingers and this and that. I think they were very harsh in pointing the fingers so critically at some persons, which I personally believe to be very honorable in that sense. But obviously, for me, a sad day for poker, because it really makes no sense that you can bet on a horse in the US. You can do whatever you want on a horse track in the US, but you can't play a hand of poker online. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but we're in 2024. There's a lot of shit that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that's the world we live in.
So to talk about present time, so now you're back in the game with Winamax.
Yeah.
What is your goal to comment je peux dire ça?
Vas-y, dis-le en français.
Non, mais so now, what was the decision that make you back in the game?
If I have to simply say, I want to fuck them all. No. Well, I mean, I stayed for a long time. I lived for a long time in Monaco. I have a little son, 3.5 years old.
Congrats.
Thank you. Doing very well. And for that reason, I obviously moved back to Denmark. So that's a big part of my life, obviously. It's a different part than what I'm used to. I'm used to being on my own. Now I have responsibilities. I have a house. I have a son, etc. And I spend most of my time in Denmark, and I'm happy with that. I love Denmark. But gambling, poker, etc. is also part of who I am. So even though I've been laying low, I've never left that part of me. That's still a part of me. And obviously with my longtime friend Stéphane, we've always had a chit chat about this and that, and maybe we could do something together and this and that. And it's mostly been talk. But then fortunately our path crossed in December in the World Poker Tour in Vegas. We talked about their initiative Dans la tête d'un pro, etc., which was kind of the same thought process as my book originally, and it could be fun to do that, and etc. And we kind of got the ball rolling, and I met some of the guys from the team as well, and it was very intriguing to me. And I think first of all, Steph is probably the only one in the world with that title in poker, and managing the team, creating a group of guys, girls from here, there, and everywhere, a nice group together. And like I said, it was very intriguing, and I actually like to be a part of that. So we got started I would say for the first time in a more serious manner, discussing ideas of how we could work together. And fortunately, it came to fruition. And now we're here in Marrakech. I played the first event in EPT Monaco, my former hometown, and we're going to continue. And I'm very excited. I really feel like there's a good atmosphere in the team. Strong players. There's a good vibe. Just people helping each other, and I think for the first time now that we touched upon Team Full Tilt was not a team. It was 10 individuals that was on a team. I mean, again, Le Bleu, if they're 10 soccer players and the goalie and they don't play together as a team, they're not going to do shit. But if they play together as a team, they're going to... Obviously, Team Winamax, it's individuals. You are an individual when you're in the poker world. But you can work together, you can study together, you can help each other out, etc. Good recommendations, etc. I mean, I've already mapped it out. I mean, when I'm at the final table at the main event in VSOP, I'm going to ask the team to help me profile, help me prepare for the final table. So, I mean, and that's what a team does. So I just have a really good feel about it.
Steph, can you tell us a little bit more your point of view? How the thing started, and can you believe it now?
You mean how the recruiting started?
Yeah, the recruiting. No, you can tell us the first time you met Gus, because like it's gonna be a tennis thing, okay?
Yeah, the first time we met was a tennis thing. Yes, it was. So I got a random call one day from an unknown number, and the guy calling me actually was Mike Svobodny. Mike is a bookmaker, gambler, backgammon, poker player, a Russian American. Anyway, he called me in 2005 because I was back then, I had the reputation to be the best local tennis player in Las Vegas. And so he called me to offer me a bet in which I was the horse. So I was not, betting my own money, but I was the horse. And the bet was that I had to play a tennis match on one leg against an opponent.
Really?
Yeah. So that's how the whole thing started. So at first I thought it was a troll. Like I didn't know the guy, and he told me he got my number from some other tennis pro, whatever. I didn't know if it was serious or whatever. And it was an actual real bet that was, between Mike and some friends against another group of guys.
So did you take the bet?
So yeah, I mean, first of all, I had to find out who I was going to play against, right? So he told me, the profile of the guy. I trained because I had no idea how I could do on one leg. Obviously, playing a tennis match on one leg was something new. I trained for the bet. The bet was bought out a couple days before. But Mike called me back and he said, I still want you to come where we had the appointment scheduled, which was at Turnberry Place. I remember this always. And he said, because I have a friend of mine, he's a gambler and he's a very good tennis player. And he's in Vegas a lot. And he's looking for someone to play tennis, to get some sparring sessions with and whatever. So I showed up that day at Turnberry Place, and that's how I met Gus. So
you play on two legs?
Yeah, I played on two, obviously. No, I would not beat Gus on one leg, that's for sure. But
just to go back to the one leg.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Yeah, it is. Well, as a matter of fact, so that bet obviously didn't happen that time, but that's how I got to meet Gus, and so I'll get back to the bet later. But so we started playing tennis and we started discussing, and we became friendly very quickly. We had a lot of things in common, I guess. We're the same age, and the sports background and all that stuff.
Too. Huh? The same haircut too back in time?
Same haircut also. Yeah.
Very touchy joke.
It's not touchy. It's not touchy. And so, so then we became good friends, and, our friendship developed really, but for, I would say probably 2 months into our friendship, we started playing a lot. He would come to UNLV where I was working, the university, and then so we would play like 2, 3 times, 4 times a week, whatever. We started hanging out, and for about 2 months, he never told me who he was. So I just knew him by Gus or Gustav, whatever. And, eventually I found out who he was, and he made me discover the poker world. So to go back to the bet, a couple years later, 2008, so that was in 2005, but 2008, and Gus actually was also somehow involved with this, but I worked at the Cosmopolitan, which is that big resort. I was a manager there, and one of the co-workers, one of the sales guy for the Cosmopolitan was like he had played tennis for like a year or a year and a half or something, right? And so I don't know if you remember that story. Maybe it will ring a bell. And the guy was really like clueless about the tennis level, right? And so one day we were at the table with my manager, who was or the director, I should say. He was a very competent tennis player, and we started discussing tennis and all that. And the guy was so clueless, and he started saying, "No, but I mean, nobody can ace me. When I take my lessons, my coach, he tries to hit aces, but I return every ball." And so the director started laughing at him, and he said, "Dude, if you stand on the other side from Stéphane, you're never gonna return a serve. You're not even gonna touch the ball." And the guy's like, "No, and then the guy just wouldn't let go. So at the end, he got so annoying, so that I offered him the bet. I said, "Look, you pick the place, the time, and I will play against you on one leg."
Wow.
For the amount you want. I said the place, the time, and the amount you want. But I didn't have a lot of money back then, right? So I think I initially put the bet for like 1,000 or something like that. And then I told Gus about the story. And Gus, I think that's when we lost the guy, because the guy was so sure he was going to beat me. But then Gus came in and he said, "Dude, this guy," he said, I'm betting 50K on you, right?" And so all of a sudden I get back to the guy and I say, "If you want to up the bet, we can go 50K. And I think that's when he started like getting a little concerned that maybe he was not going to win. So we did the match for 1,000, and then I was up 6-love 4-1 on one leg, right?
Wow.
Then our director, who was there watching, he was laughing so hard. Then he changed the rules and he said now the guy can actually play on the sidelines also. So he had the full doubles court. So I was up 6-love 4-love, then sidelines, and he would start every game up 30-love. So then I lost one game, but then it was 6-love 6-1 4-0, and we stopped, and I made like $1,000 in like 38 minutes back then.
And you
But the guy was like, he was at he was beginner, beginner, not even intermediate, I would say. So he was like not much. I mean, he
aces on one leg.
Yeah. No, but just the spin. If you spin the serve on one leg is enough. A beginner is never gonna handle the ball, and he was double faulting a lot. All I had to do was hop to the first shot, and then I would hit one shot, and the point was over.
And between the two of you,
he's a different level than me. I can beat him on one leg. I can crush him.
Yeah, if I play on one leg, Gus is going to win, that's for sure.
So he's not your Jacob. He's not your tennis Jacob.
No. That I'm never going to get to that. And I've put the tennis racket away, and we're going to go with a paddle.
Also, in paddle is the best?
No.
No.
Probably not.
Like a French would say, no.
So to finish the recruitment story, how does it?
Yeah, no. So where it's for me, where the story is pretty amazing is that so we spent a lot of time that first year after we met. We were hanging out. He took me into the Bobby's room. First poker game I watched, was in Bobby's room. Then he showed me the World Series. We talked a lot that year because I was discovering this world, and already I was seeing a lot of parallels, between the world I was from, the tennis, and the traveling, the competition, and all that. So we talked a lot, and at the end of that year, Gus actually offered me to manage him. It was the first time, and like coach, manage, and traveling, buddy or whatever. He figured we could do sports, play tennis, travel. I could help, like structure some of his business and all that. I was not ready, I guess. I debated it for a long time, but I didn't feel I was ready to take that jump. It was the end of 2005. I was just finishing my studies in Vegas, and I had the job offer from the Cosmopolitan. So I didn't go with Gus's offer, but it stayed on my mind, and then we stayed very friendly, as long as we both lived or spent a lot of time in Vegas until 2008, 2009. We obviously stayed in touch since then. And so where it's kind of ironic in a good way is that 20 years later, then this thing comes around, and then eventually I recruit Gus into the team I've been running for 15 years, when he basically is the guy who showed me the whole poker world. So this is the kind of the nice story. Yeah.
Everything.
It's like a circle. It's like a circle. Yeah.
Elton John. Yeah. Circle of life.
Gus, I think we have to let you go because if not, we can stay all day with you. But
You're gonna play the main event on the 6 weeks now?
I'm gonna play the main event. I'm gonna kick Steph's ass in paddle, and then I'm gonna play the main event.
You want
Perfect.
to bet? You want to bet?
Oh yes.
I can't.
I don't know. I mean, we
Maybe.
have to see. The game is at 3 p.m. You know, we've.
He's playing with Harper? No,
We don't know what the teams are going to be. Most likely, I don't know the fourth guy. He's a soccer player, but I don't know about his level. So we're going to figure
Jimmy
out.
Cabot? Is it Jimmy Cabot?
No, it's Mathieu Dreyer. He's,
de
he's a
Strasbourg,
goalkeeper from
Right.
Strasbourg. Yeah.
Strasbourg, okay.
So we'll see. But I'm not going to be on the same side with Gus of the net for sure. We will be opponents.
We wish you all the
the
luck
best.
for the paddle
Yes.
and all the luck. Good luck for your career in Winamax because it's for all the guys who've been around for a lot of time in poker. It's crazy to have you like in the French
With
team.
a W on your...
I will say here at the end, I'm really looking forward to it. Even though it's only been a month or so, it has the right feel to it. So I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good for me. I hope it's going to be good for the team, for Winamax, for everybody involved. That's how you create a long-lasting bond and a good relationship. So I'm really hopeful, and I think it's going to be good.
Thank you very much, Gus.
Thank you very much.
Merci à tous en tout cas d'avoir été avec
Merci,
nous. Merci
Steph.
à Clovis à la technique et à
Clément au
non, c'est
son.
pas Clément qui s'appelle.
C'est Clément.
Ah, c'est Clément.
Merci.
Voilà, mon petit
Beer.
Clément, le
The big
beer.
beer.
Merci beaucoup et nous on se retrouve très bientôt pour un nouvel épisode de Club Poker Radio. Bisous à tous, ciao ciao
Bisous à
ciao.
tous. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.